I have something very special and very powerful indeed in my left hand. What is it? It's called magic towing dust. What you do is you sprinkle it on the pickup, and without making any mechanical changes whatsoever to the pickup, you increase the pickup's towing capacity. Now, this is something that the manufacturers all covet and value because, well, let's face it, it's great PR. But is it safe? TFL investigates, coming up next on the Fast Lane Truck. Now, it wasn't all that long ago that we didn't have a standard for horsepower, we didn't have a standard for MPG. I mean, how do you determine a truck's or car's horsepower? Do you do it at the crank? Do you do it at the wheel? Well, all that was settled because the Society of Automotive Engineers got together and created a standard. Unfortunately, currently there is no standard for the towing capacity or payload capacity of a truck that all the manufacturers adhere to.
My name is Mike Narito. I'm the lead development engineer for the full-size pickups at GM, which include the Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra.
Which is the one we're in right now.
We are in the Silverado,
yeah,
Silverado High Country, as a matter of fact.
A few years ago, the Society of Automotive Engineers did get together and come up with a standard. It's called J2807. The problem is that Toyota is the only one that has adopted it. Now, the standards are somewhat rigorous. I recently had a chance to talk to one of the main engineers for pickups at GM, and he explained it to me. Now, Mike, you're the guy, in a way, who helped spearhead the standard, the Society of Automotive Engineers J2807 towing standard. And it's been something that only Toyota has adopted so far. So let's start with kind of what is that standard? How do you judge how much a truck can tow?
Yeah, there's several criteria. The J2807 standardizes how, from a calculation standpoint, how you calculate the max trailer capacity of a vehicle. That has nothing to do with the performance, but it's a standard way of calculating, and that's one aspect of the standard which manufacturers do differently today. The other part of the standard is the performance part of the standard, and that's where the standard tries to put requirements out there from various aspects. The first would be the powertrain cooling requirements, and all the OEMs use the same roads. The road that is called out in the standard is Davis Dam. You have to be able to pull your combination weight up Davis Dam, and
without overheating.
Without overheating, and
losing fluid.
At a minimum vehicle speed.
Okay.
Okay, so you can't crawl up there at 20 miles an hour. There's a minimum vehicle speed called out in the standard.
Because without a standard, basically what you have is you can tow as much as, the truck will pull until fluids start leaking out of the engine, right?
Right, yeah. So what the standard says is, hey, you can't, you must meet this at a minimum vehicle speed. You cannot overheat, and you cannot set any lights.
How about in terms of rigidity of the vehicle,
yeah.
Payload? How do you calculate that?
Well, from the rest of the standard, let me say, talks about the vehicle handling requirements. So there's standards in there for with the combination, how much minimum understeer do you need to have in a vehicle under certain lateral accelerations, and the standard then goes on with 0 to 30 times, 0 to 60 times, 40 to 60. So in other words, do you have enough powertrain in the vehicle to enter a freeway and get up to freeway speeds without being unsafe to the people that you're merging with? So there's standards to from a powertrain performance standpoint. There are some standards in there for gradability in forward and in reverse. So you now couple all those things together, and it'll be beneficial to the end consumer to know that all the manufacturers are meeting the same requirements.
Now, so far, the only manufacturer that has actually signed on the dotted line for J2807 is Toyota. I recently had the chance via FaceTime to talk to Toyota's chief engineer for trucks and ask him why it was that they were the first to raise their hand and say, yeah, we'll officially sign up for the standard.
As we looked at it from a Toyota standpoint, our belief is that what we tell a customer they can tow, they shouldn't have to do any kind of deep analysis to understand what the truck is capable of, and truly, what we say is possible, and they can tow safely.
Yeah, because it seems to me like there's a thing right now called magic towing dust, right? People come out, a manufacturer comes out and says our truck will tow, let's say, 9,000, and the next day, without any changes to the truck, the other manufacturer will say, well, ours can tow 10,000, or 9,500. And I guess that if you had a standard that everybody signed off on, you wouldn't have magic towing dust anymore. All right, goose it.
Well, yeah, the number one reason people buy a full-size truck is capability. So when you start talking about changing the numbers or standardizing the system, now you are affecting what you can market, what you can say you can market, and that's really where the trouble comes in. But on the flip side of that is, as we keep raising our numbers, if we don't have some standard to put that in there, you have people who are truly overloading the vehicle. And for the guy who tows all the time, it's probably fine. He knows how to handle it. But for the person who is your weekend tower, when you run into overloading a truck and you get into an emergency lane change, or you're parking on a hill, or so on and so forth, that person can get in trouble real quick. And making sure the truck is capable of doing of what it can do, not just the driver's ability to control an overload situation.
And you guys spearheaded that. You guys were the ones who were out there actually saying this is a standard. We have standards for MPG, right? We have standards for torque and horsepower.
Sure. But
we don't have standards for towing, and GM was out in the forefront, and yet you haven't adopted it. So is that just because, you want to keep that magic towing dust in reserve so that you can come out and say, well, it does
I can tell you that,
more?
right, because we inspired it, much of the standard are practices that we already adopt and that we already design our vehicles to, let me say. And let's say when this goes to production is continually to be discussed.
It seems like it's a decision made up higher, right? It becomes a marketing and sales decision.
Yeah, there's various aspects of it.
You want to keep your powder. You want to reserve it, right? if you sign up for it.
I don't want your audience to think that GM has some powder out there that once we do adopt J2807, our rating's going to drop dramatically. That is not the case. In fact, we are very close. The J2807 impact to our ratings will be minor. I will assure you that they'll be minor.
You're amazed what you can do if you have a good set of trailer brakes, but it's not just about the brakes. It's about what the truck brakes can do. It's about the engine braking. It's about the cooling of the truck. And making sure that the truck as a system is working properly to ensure the safety of the operator who's trying to tow those loads. I can't emphasize that enough. And everybody says, well, why is Toyota doing this? Why didn't you just abandon it since no one else wants to do it? It's really about our customer safety. And regardless if we get any marketing advantage out of it, we're not interested in that. We're very interested in making sure our customers are safe in what they do in our products.
So let's just take a quick tally. Toyota has signed up and has implemented J2807. GM says that they're ready to implement it. It's just a question of the higher ups giving them the thumbs up. You guys like to say this is the biggest tool in the toolbox.
Right.
But there's, a truck war going on right now, and yet the way that you honestly define towing at this point is, you tow as much as you can until the engine blows up. Right? And there's no standard. There's that J2807 standard that I think Toyota has signed on for, but what ends up happening is you guys come up with a pickup truck and then Ford sprinkles some magic towing dust on theirs, and the next day there's a press release saying that their truck gets 500 more pounds worth of towing. So where's that going? I mean, it seems like people need a reliable standard.